She said 2 words that saved a billionaire's life. 4 days later, someone put a bullet in his chest trying to kill them both. And it all started because she couldn't keep her mouth shut when everyone else stayed silent. This is the story of the woman who chose truth over safety, who spoke up when speaking up could cost her everything, who learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is tell the truth. And the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to stay invisible. Stay with me, because what happens next will break your heart, stop your breath, and remind you why your voice matters more than you think. This is Emma's story, and by the end, you'll never stay silent again. Welcome to the story room. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and nobody really sees you? When you're there, but you're not there. That was Emma Rodriguez's whole world. And honestly, she'd worked really hard to make it that way. 25 years old, standing in the corner of Chicago's fanciest hotel restaurant, wearing a uniform that made her disappear. Crisp white shirt, black jacket that hid everything about who she truly was. Hair pulled back, so tight it gave her headaches every single night. But let me tell you something about Emma. 4 years ago, she wasn't invisible at all. 4 years ago, Emma was the star student at Northwestern University. She was studying architecture, designing buildings that took people's breath away. Her professors said she had a gift. They said she could see spaces differently than anyone else. Big architecture firms were already calling her, promising her dream jobs and salaries she'd never imagined. Then everything changed in one terrible moment. Her father had a heart attack. A massive one. The kind that changes everything forever in a single heartbeat. Suddenly, Emma's dreams didn't matter anymore. What mattered was keeping her dad alive. What mattered was paying for the heart treatments that insurance wouldn't cover. What mattered was the special medications that cost more each month than most people earned in a year. So Emma made a choice that broke her heart. She left Northwestern. She ignored the desperate phone calls from her professors. She deleted the emails from architecture firms. She put her dreams in a box, locked it tight, and buried it deep inside her heart. Because the Grand Riverside Hotel, this 5-star place where celebrities ate dinner and powerful people made million-dollar deals, paid more in 4 months than any starting architect position would pay in a whole year. And her dad? Her dad was still alive, still fighting, still going to cardiac therapy 3 times a week. Slowly getting stronger, slowly becoming himself again. That's what mattered. Not Emma's brilliant mind. Not her gift for seeing beauty in buildings. Not the fact that she could look at blueprints and spot problems that everyone else missed. For 4 years, she'd been invisible. And she'd been okay with that. Until tonight. Tonight, everything was about to change. The evening started like any other. December snow falling outside the windows of the Grand Riverside, covering Chicago in a blanket of white. Inside, crystal lights made everything glow warm and golden. This was where the world's most powerful people came to make deals over wine that cost more than Emma's monthly rent used to be. Rodriguez. Mr. Peterson, the restaurant manager, appeared beside her. His voice had that sharp edge that meant something important was happening. Presidential suite, top floor. 8 o'clock sharp. Mr. Dawson doesn't tolerate mistakes. The name meant nothing to Emma. She'd been successfully invisible for 4 years. She didn't know who was who in the world of money and power. But she saw the kitchen staff exchange worried looks. Saw the head chef actually whisper a prayer. At exactly 8 o'clock, Emma presented herself at the top floor security checkpoint. A man the size of a truck scanned her with a metal detector and waved her through without a single word. The presidential suite was breathtaking. All floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. A table set for 6 people, looking like something from a magazine. At 8 on the dot, he walked in. Nicholas Dawson. 40 years old. Self-made billionaire. The kind of man who'd built a tech empire from absolutely nothing and looked like he'd fight anyone who tried to take it from him. Dark suit that probably cost more than a car. Sharp features. Eyes that seemed to see everything and everyone. With him came other people. An older man with glasses. A serious-looking woman carrying an expensive briefcase. Two younger guys in suits who were clearly bodyguards, even though they tried to look casual. Emma poured water and melted into the corner. Invisible. That's what she was good at. At 8:15, the other guests arrived. A businessman from New York named Robert Kane. All perfect teeth and fake smiles. With him was Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a stern woman clutching a folder like it contained government secrets. Mr. Dawson, Kane's voice was smooth as honey. Tonight will change everything for your company's future. Nicholas shook his hand briefly, controlled. Show me. Dr. Mitchell placed her folder on the table like it was made of gold. Inside was a set of blueprints that made Emma's architectural training suddenly wake up after 4 years of sleep. These were building plans. Really old ones. The paper yellowed with age. Detailed drawings in faded ink. An official seal at the bottom. The original blueprints for the Dawson Technology Campus, Dr. Mitchell announced. Designed in 1985 by your father, Thomas Dawson. These prove your company owns the mineral rights beneath the entire property. Rights worth an estimated $600 million. Emma was supposed to be arranging silverware. Instead, every instinct from her years studying architecture was screaming at her. Kane continued smoothly. With these blueprints, you have legal proof to claim those mining rights. All you need to do is sign the contract and transfer the purchase price. Emma's hands trembled as she set down the water pitcher. She knew blueprints. Had studied thousands of them during her architecture degree. Building codes. Design standards. The way technical drawings evolved over decades. And something about these blueprints was completely wrong. The drawing style. The symbols. The technical notations. In 1985, architectural blueprints used very specific symbols and standards. Particular markings that had been industry standard since the 1970s. Technical notation that appeared in every legitimate blueprint from that era. These blueprints used modern CAD symbols. Digital design markers that didn't exist until the late 1990s. Notations that a forger might use if they studied modern architecture, but not historical documents. It was brilliant. Almost perfect. The paper was genuinely old. The seal looked authentic. Even the fading looked right. But the technical language was wrong. Impossible. Anachronistic. Emma watched Nicholas pick up a pen. Expensive. Gold. The kind that signed deals worth millions. She had 3 seconds to decide who she was going to be. The invisible waitress, who kept her head down and her mouth shut. Or the architect, who couldn't watch fraud happen without speaking up. Her father's voice, still weak from the heart attack but fierce as ever. Truth matters, baby girl. When we stop speaking it, we stop being human. The pen touched the paper. Wait. Have you ever had one of those moments where time just stops? Where you can feel your entire life turning on a single word? That's what happened when Emma spoke. Everyone turned. And I mean everyone. Kane's smile froze on his face. Dr. Mitchell looked confused. The bodyguards' hands moved toward their jackets, which was actually terrifying. And Nicholas Dawson? He slowly, deliberately set down his pen and turned to look at her. His expression was unreadable. His voice was quiet, dangerous. Who are you? Emma's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Her hands were shaking. Every survival instinct was screaming at her to apologize, to back down, to disappear back into safety. But she'd already jumped. Might as well see where she'd land. I'm the waitress, sir. She stepped forward, out of the shadows. And those blueprints are fake. The room exploded. Kane jumped forward, his polished manner cracking. This is ridiculous. Mr. Dawson, this girl is clearly... Silence. Nicholas's single word cut through the chaos like a knife. Everyone froze. He never took his eyes off Emma. Explain. And here's where 4 years of architecture training came flooding back like a dam breaking. Emma took a breath and spoke with confidence she absolutely didn't feel. The symbols are wrong, sir. In 1985, architectural blueprints used specific standard symbols. The American Institute of Architects had strict guidelines. Symbols for electrical, plumbing, structural elements, they were all standardized. She pointed to sections of the blueprint, her hands still trembling but her voice growing stronger. These blueprints use CAD software symbols, computer-aided design markers that didn't exist until the late 1990s. Look at this electrical notation here. That's AutoCAD 2000 symbology, not hand-drawn 1985 standards. She traced another section. And this structural detail? It references building codes that weren't written until 1992. The International Building Code specifications. They literally didn't exist when these were supposedly drawn. Dr. Mitchell's hands started shaking as she examined the blueprints. The color drained from her face. Finally, barely audible. She's right. The notation. I focused on the paper aging, not the technical specifications. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Nicholas picked up the blueprints, studied them, then set them down gently.
Too gently.
The kind of gentle that comes before a storm. He turned back to Emma. What's your name? Emma Rodriguez, sir. Emma Rodriguez. He said it slowly, like he was memorizing every syllable. Sit down. Mr. Dawson, I. Sit. Not a request. A command. Emma sat. The chair was incredibly comfortable, which somehow made everything worse. Nicholas gestured to his older companion. James. Escort Mr. Kane and Dr. Mitchell downstairs. Find out who they're working for. Within seconds, Kane and Mitchell were gone, their protests fading down the hallway.
Just like that.
Like they'd never existed. Suddenly Emma was alone with Nicholas Dawson, and the reality of what she'd just done crashed over her like a freezing wave.
He poured wine.
Expensive wine. The kind Emma had served 1,000 times but never tasted. He slid a glass toward her. Drink. Sir, I'm working. You're not working anymore.
You work for me now.
Drink. Emma's hands shook as she lifted the glass. The wine was exceptional. Probably cost more than she made in a week. For 4 years, Nicholas said, his voice quiet but intense. You've been invisible in this restaurant. Tonight, you stepped into the light. Why?
Emma thought about lying.
About giving some noble answer about justice and doing the right thing. But something about this man made her think he'd know. He'd see right through any lie. Because I couldn't watch someone be cheated, she said simply. I spent 4 years at Northwestern studying architecture. 4 years learning to read blueprints, to spot the mistakes people hide in technical drawings. And I couldn't watch it happen, even if it cost me everything. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Respect. What do you want, Emma Rodriguez? My job back. Her voice caught. My dad needs treatment. He had a heart attack 4 years ago. The cardiac rehabilitation costs. I need the money. He pulled out his phone.
Type something.
You don't work for Peterson anymore. You work for me. Technical analysis. Blueprint verification. Finding the lies hidden in architectural documents. He leaned forward. I need someone who sees what everyone else misses. What does it pay? His assistant slid over a paper. The number made Emma choke on her wine. That's per month, right? Per week. Plus full medical coverage. Any treatment, any doctor, anywhere in the world. Emma stared at him. This was insane. This didn't happen in real life. Waitresses didn't become consultants earning more money than they'd ever dreamed of just because they pointed out fake blueprints. What's the catch? Loyalty. Truth. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when it costs you. His dark eyes held hers. Can you do that? Emma thought of her dad. The medical bills that never stopped. For years of being invisible. Of serving people who never saw her. For years of pretending she wasn't brilliant, wasn't capable, wasn't drowning. She thought of the rush she'd felt when she'd spoken up. When truth met power, and power actually listened. Yes. Nicholas extended his hand. Welcome to Dawson Technologies, Emma. She shook it. His grip was firm, warm, real. Outside, the snow had stopped. Chicago glittered through the windows like scattered diamonds. And Emma Rodriguez, invisible for 4 years, was finally, terrifyingly, gloriously seen. But here's what she didn't know yet. What neither of them knew. Those blueprints weren't just a failed scam. They were a test. Someone had wanted to see if Nicholas would accept them. Someone had wanted to track where they went. And Emma, by speaking up, had just painted a target on her back. 4 days later, someone would try to kill her. And everything she thought she knew about Nicholas Dawson, about truth, about safety, about the cost of being seen, was about to change forever. 4 days after Emma stopped being invisible, she found herself in Nicholas's office. And it wasn't just an office.
It was a statement.
Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Furniture that belonged in art museums. A desk made from a single piece of wood that probably had its own insurance policy. Everything was sharp angles and clean lines. The space of someone who'd eliminated anything soft from their life as a matter of survival. So, Emma said, reviewing documents on her laptop. You've acquired 63 historical properties in the last 3 years. And I found problems with 20 of them. Nicholas looked up from his own papers. Dark circles under his eyes suggested he'd slept as poorly as she had. Problems. Forgeries. Alterations. Fake documentation. Someone's been selling you very expensive lies. She turned her screen toward him. And they're all verified by the same person. Your chief architect, David. The silence that followed was absolute. David has been with me for 10 years, Nicholas said quietly. Then someone's been lying to you for 10 years. Emma pulled up bank transfers, encrypted emails, a digital trail that someone hadn't been careful enough to hide. The forgeries, the payments, they all lead back to the same source. She showed him a name, Christopher Vale. Nicholas's face went cold. Actually cold. Like watching ice form over deep water. Christopher. Who's Christopher? My business partner. My best friend since college. His jaw clenched. The man I trusted with everything. Emma's heart sank. She'd seen that look before. On her dad's face when the doctors first explained how bad the heart attack was. The moment when someone realizes their entire reality has been built on lies. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Don't be. You're doing your job. He stood, walked to the window. Chicago sprawled below them, indifferent to human betrayal. Where is he? According to David, who gave him up rather quickly when we started asking questions, he's at your lake house in Wisconsin. The one your mother left you. Nicholas turned, and Emma saw something in his expression that made her nervous. Not anger. Something colder. More calculated. Get your coat. We're going to have a conversation about the cost of betrayal. Nicholas, maybe we should call the police. I don't call the police, Emma. I handle my own problems. And that's when Emma realized that maybe, just maybe, she'd jumped from one dangerous situation into another. The drive to Wisconsin took 3 hours. Nicholas drove himself, a sleek black car that probably cost more than a house. He didn't speak. Just drove with the focused intensity of someone planning something. Emma should have been scared. Should have insisted on calling authorities. But she'd spent 4 years watching her dad fight against impossible odds. And she'd learned something important. Sometimes the safe choice isn't the right choice. The lake house appeared through the winter darkness, like something from a thriller movie. All glass walls and modern architecture, and windows that reflected nothing but stars. He's expecting us, Nicholas said, pulling up to the entrance. David called ahead. He's hoping to save himself by cooperating. Is that going to work for him? Maybe. For Christopher? His smile was sharp enough to cut.
No.
They found Christopher in the living room. And here's the thing that got Emma. He didn't look like a villain. He looked like every other wealthy man she'd served at the Grand Riverside. Early 40s. Expensive casual clothes. The kind of face that belonged in commercials for luxury cars. He was holding a drink. Whiskey, probably. Acting like this was just another evening. Nick, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I wondered when you'd figured out. The forgeries. The fake documents. All of it was you. Nicholas's voice was steady, but Emma could hear the pain underneath. Why? And here's where it got real. Christopher's mask cracked.
Why?
Because you got everything, Nick. Your mother's company. Her reputation. Her empire. And what did I get? A minority stake and a pat on the head. He took a drink. I built half of what Dawson Technologies is today. But it's your name on the building. Your face in the magazines. Your legacy. So you tried to destroy me. I tried to take what should have been mine. Christopher's voice rose. The forgeries weren't just about money. I was mapping your property holdings, planning to take it all, replace you, show everyone that I was the one who built this empire. Emma's hand went to her phone in her pocket. She'd started recording the moment they entered the house. Every word, every confession. And when Emma spotted the fraud, Nicholas said quietly, "You tried to kill her." She ruined everything. Christopher's composure shattered completely. That stupid waitress with her architecture degree and her inconvenient honesty. Do you have any idea how long I planned this? How carefully I built everything? That's when things went sideways. Christopher pulled out a gun. Not dramatically. Almost casually. Like it was just another business tool. "Here's how this ends," he said. "I shoot both of you. Make it look like a robbery. Take over the company as the grieving partner. Everyone wins. Except the people you shoot," Emma pointed out. Because apparently near-death situations destroyed her filter completely. Well, yes. Except them. What happened next happened fast. Nicholas moved, trying to shield Emma. Christopher fired. The bullet caught Nicholas in the chest. He went down hard. Emma screamed. Not a calculated scream. A real one. The sound of watching someone you'd started to care about get shot right in front of you. Then training kicked in. For years of watching her dad's nurses. Of learning to stay calm when everything fell apart. Of being functional when the world ended. She tackled Christopher. All 120 pounds of her fury launched at a man twice her size. They went down hard. The gun skittered away. Nicholas's security burst through the door. They'd been waiting outside.
Of course they had.
Nicholas didn't walk into danger unprepared. But Emma didn't care about Christopher anymore. She was crawling to Nicholas, her hands finding the wound, applying pressure. "You're okay," she said, her voice shaking. "You're going to be okay. Stay with me." His eyes opened. Found hers. He tried to smile. "You tackled him. Shut up. Save your energy." "I love you," he said quietly. Simple. Final.
True.
Had to say it. Just in case. "Don't you dare." Emma's voice broke. "Don't you dare say that, and then die. That's emotional manipulation." Despite the pain, despite everything, he laughed. And Emma realized that some truths were worth any cost. The hospital waiting room smelled like disinfectant and fear. Emma had been there for 7 hours. Still wearing clothes stained with Nicholas's blood. Her hands scrubbed clean but still feeling dirty. The bullet had missed his heart by millimeters. Millimeters. That's what the surgeon said. Millimeters between life and death. Between a future and nothing. Christopher was in police custody. David had turned witness. The fraud scheme turned out to be bigger than anyone imagined. 34 forged documents. Multiple buyers across the country. A network that had been operating for 7 years. And Emma? Emma was the key witness who'd exposed it all. Her recording from the lake house. Her analysis of the blueprints. Her testimony about the attempted murder. The newspapers were calling her a hero. Architecture student turned waitress exposes multi-million-dollar fraud ring. Woman saves tech billionaire from best friend's betrayal. She'd ignored them all. Because heroes didn't sit in hospital waiting rooms, terrified, replaying the moment when someone they loved got shot protecting them. "Ms. Rodriguez?" She looked up. The surgeon. Still in scrubs. "He's awake. Asking for you." Emma's legs nearly gave out with relief. Nicholas's private room was on the top floor. Of course it was. With windows overlooking the city and equipment that probably cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. He looked terrible.
Pale.
Bandaged. Connected to machines that beeped reassuringly.
But alive.
Definitely alive. "You look awful," Emma said, sitting in the chair beside his bed. "You're still terrible at bedside manner." His voice was rough but warm. "Did they get him?" "Christopher's arrested. David's cooperating." The whole fraud network is falling apart. She took his hand carefully, avoiding the foreline. It's over. It's not over. His eyes held hers. I meant what I said at the lake house. Before I got shot and ruined the moment. Emma's heart did complicated things. Nicholas. I love you, Emma Rodriguez. I love that you speak up when everyone else stays silent. I love that you threw yourself at a man with a gun to protect me. I love that you're brilliant and brave and terrible at accepting compliments. I didn't protect you. You got shot. You saved my life. Again. He squeezed her hand gently. When are you going to accept that you're extraordinary? I'm really not. I'm just someone who couldn't stay silent anymore. Do you know how rare that is? His voice was soft. People who risk everything for truth? I built an empire, Emma. I have money, power, influence. But I couldn't see the lies right in front of me. You saw them immediately. That's not ordinary. That's remarkable. Emma felt tears threatening. She'd held it together for 7 hours. Through police statements and journalist questions and her own terror. Now, sitting beside this impossible man who'd somehow changed her entire life, the dam broke. I was so scared, she whispered. When he shot you. When I thought. Her voice broke. I can't lose someone else. My dad almost died. I spent 4 years fighting to keep him alive. I can't do that again. I can't. Hey. He reached up, wiped her tears with his good hand. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll fight like hell to stay. His smile was gentle. Just like your dad.
Just like you.
Fighting is apparently genetic in the Rodriguez family. Despite everything, Emma laughed. Watery, broken, but genuine. I love you too, she said quietly. Even though you're reckless and have terrible taste in business partners and got yourself shot. In my defense, the getting shot part wasn't planned. Still counts as poor decision-making. They sat in comfortable silence. Hands linked, listening to machines beep and city traffic hum below. What happens now? Emma asked eventually.
Now.
Nicholas's expression turned thoughtful. Now we rebuild. Dawson Technologies, but better.
Cleaner.
With someone who actually checks our architectural documents properly. That's not what I meant. I know what you meant. He looked at her seriously. I want you in my life, Emma. Not just as an employee. As a partner. Someone who challenges me.
Keeps me honest.
Loves me despite my terrible taste in business partners. That's a lot of responsibility. You tackled a man with a gun. I think you can handle it. Emma thought about her dad. About 4 years of being invisible. About the moment she'd spoken up and how it had changed everything. My dad wants to meet you, she said. He's been asking for weeks. Apparently accepting expensive gifts requires meeting the gift giver. That's his rule. What gifts? Nicholas. Emma's voice was thick with emotion. You've been paying for his cardiac care. The rehabilitation. The treatments. Did you think I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't figure out why suddenly all his medical bills are covered? He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. You were taking care of him on a waitress's salary. I have more money than I know what to do with. Simple mathematics. That's not mathematics. That's kindness. Don't tell anyone. Bad for my reputation. Too late. I'm definitely telling everyone. A knock on the door interrupted them. A nurse entered with medication, checked monitors, reminded Nicholas to rest. After she left, Emma stood to go. I should let you sleep. Stay. His hand tightened on hers.
Please.
I sleep better knowing you're here. So she stayed, curled up in the uncomfortable hospital chair, holding the hand of a man who'd been shot protecting her, who'd changed her life by listening when she spoke, who'd seen her when she was invisible. Outside, Chicago glittered in the darkness. 3 million people living their lives. None of them knowing that in a private hospital room, a former architecture student and a tech billionaire were writing their own ending. Or maybe their beginning. Because Emma Rodriguez had stopped being invisible the moment she chose to speak. And Nicholas Dawson had stopped being alone the moment he chose to listen. Everything else was just details. 8 months later, the story had become something people talked about. Every major news outlet had covered it. The Chicago Tribune called it the fraud that shook the tech world. NPR did a feature titled From Waitress to Whistleblower, Emma Rodriguez's Remarkable Journey. But Emma didn't care about the headlines. She cared about what happened after. Nicholas recovered slowly, stubbornly. Physical therapy that made him grumpy. Painkillers he refused to take because they made him fuzzy. Emma was there for all of it, bullying him into resting, arguing with him about proper healing, making him laugh when the pain got bad. They didn't rush into anything. No dramatic declarations. No movie-perfect romance. Just two people learning to trust each other. To build something real from the ashes of betrayal and bullets. Emma finished her architecture degree. Online classes. Night study sessions. Nicholas quizzing her on building codes while recovering from surgery. She graduated with honors. Her dad in the audience, crying happy tears. His heart strong now. Getting better every day. Nicholas restructured Dawson Technologies completely. New oversight. New ethics policies. A whole department dedicated to document verification, headed by Emma herself. They caught 5 more fraud attempts in the first 2 months alone. Christopher went to prison. 15 years for fraud, attempted murder, conspiracy. David got a lighter sentence for cooperation. For years, which honestly seemed generous to Emma, but the justice system worked in mysterious ways. And through it all, through the rebuilding and healing and learning to trust again, Emma and Nicholas built something neither of them expected. A partnership.
Real.
Complicated. Messy. Beautiful. Today was the opening of something new. Something that mattered more than all the headlines and legal victories combined. The Miguel Rodriguez Center for Cardiac Recovery and Rehabilitation. Named after Emma's dad. Funded by Nicholas. Designed to help families who couldn't afford the care that had saved Miguel's life. Free rehabilitation. Experimental treatments.
Support groups.
Everything Emma wished had existed for years ago when she'd been drowning in medical bills and impossible choices. The ceremony was held in a newly constructed building on Chicago's South Side. Not fancy. Not exclusive. Accessible. Welcoming. The kind of place where regular people could find hope. Emma stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. Her dad in the front row. Walking without assistance now. Smiling that big smile she'd missed for so long. Nicholas beside her. His hand in hers. Solid and real. Journalists and donors and families who would benefit from this place. And for the first time in years, Emma wasn't invisible. Wasn't scared of being seen. 4 years ago, she began, her voice steady. I made a choice. I walked away from everything I'd worked for to save the person I loved most. I became invisible. Worked in the shadows. Pretended I wasn't capable of more. She paused, found her dad's eyes. But my dad taught me something important. He taught me that truth matters. That speaking up matters. Even when it costs you everything. Even when it's terrifying. Emma looked at Nicholas. His smile was soft, proud. I spoke up in that restaurant because I couldn't stay silent anymore. I couldn't watch fraud happen without saying something. And that single moment, that decision to be seen, changed everything. Her voice grew stronger. This center exists because of that moment. Because someone listened when I spoke. Because someone believed that truth was worth protecting. Because someone understood that real power isn't about staying silent. It's about making noise for people who can't. She gestured to the building behind her. Every family who walks through these doors will receive care regardless of their ability to pay. Every cardiac patient will get rehabilitation, support, hope. Because no one should have to choose between their dreams and saving someone they love. No one should have to become invisible to survive. The applause was thunderous, genuine. Emma saw people crying. Saw her dad openly weeping with joy. Saw Nicholas looking at her like she'd hung the moon. After the ceremony, after the photos and handshakes and promises, Emma and Nicholas escaped to the rooftop. Chicago spread out before them. Lake Michigan glittering in the afternoon sun. You were brilliant. Nicholas said, pulling her close. I was terrified. You're always terrified. You just do it anyway. He kissed her forehead. That's what makes you extraordinary. We're really doing this, aren't we? Emma asked. The foundation. The new company ethics. Trying to make something good from something terrible. We're doing it. His arms tightened around her. Together. Emma thought about the last 8 months. The healing. The rebuilding. The slow, careful process of learning to trust and be trusted. My dad asked when you're going to officially propose, she said, unable to keep the smile from her voice. Did he? He says you've been dating me for 8 months, paying for his medical care for 10, and saved my life twice. By his calculations, you're either serious or a very committed stalker. Nicholas laughed. The sound was warm, genuine, completely unguarded. Your dad is remarkably direct. It's genetic. I've noticed. He turned her to face him, his expression serious now. Emma Rodriguez. Former architecture student. Former waitress. Current love of my life. Would you? Yes. I haven't finished asking. Don't care. Yes. He smiled, reached into his pocket, pulled out a ring. Simple. Elegant. A single diamond that caught the light. Not showy. Not excessive. Perfect. Would you marry me? He asked. Be my partner in crime fighting and fraud detection and making the world slightly less terrible? That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is it a yes? Emma looked at the ring. At this impossible man who'd listened when she spoke. Who'd protected her. Who'd believed in her when she'd stopped believing in herself. It's a yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Nicholas never did anything halfway. They stood on that rooftop, holding each other, watching Chicago glow in the afternoon light. Two people who'd survived betrayal and bullets and their own fears to find something unexpected. Not perfection. They'd never be perfect. They argued too much, worked too hard. Both carried scars that would never fully heal. But they had truth. Honesty. The kind of love that was built on seeing each other clearly, flaws and all, and choosing each other anyway. Thank you, Emma said quietly. For what? For listening. When I spoke up that night, you could have ignored me, dismissed me. But you listened. How could I not? His voice was soft. You were telling the truth. That's the rarest thing in the world. And Emma realized he was right. In a world full of beautiful lies and convenient fiction, truth was rare, valuable, worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth building a life around. The sun was setting over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Below them, the center's doors stood open, ready to welcome families who needed hope. And Emma Rodriguez, no longer invisible, no longer silent, stood beside the man she loved and thought about her journey. From Northwestern to the Grand Riverside to this moment. Every choice had led her here. Every sacrifice. Every moment of courage when she'd rather have stayed safe and silent. Ready to go home? Nicholas asked. Emma looked at the ring on her finger. At the foundation bearing her father's name. At the future spreading out before them like an unwritten blueprint. Ready. They walked toward the stairs, toward home, toward whatever came next. Together. Because Emma had learned the most important lesson of all. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. You matter. And when you speak up, even when you're terrified, even when it costs you everything, you give others permission to do the same. That's how we change the world. One brave word at a time. Thanks for your watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to the Story Room for meaningful stories that inspire and teach life lessons.